Hey.
What's up, man? Dude, I got this game that you need to hear about.
What's up?
It's called Scavenger, Trespasser, Adventure, Loner, Killer, Explorer, Robber. How bad do you want to play it?
I don't know what the fuck it is.
It's you heard of S.T.A.L.K.E.R?
Oh yeah, Stalker. Yeah.
Alright,
Wow,
so-
that is the stupidest fucking name ever.
It's rad like that, man.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So yeah, I got a copy of it for you.
Oh really?
Yeah. You guys ready?
The only thing I've seen wool on though is the witch wing harpies. Like when I had to go kill all the bitches.
The Razormans in like the southwest of the Barrens have them.
Okay,
You
and I'm
fly-
gonna need those for bandages for
Yeah,
my
to level your
first aid.
first aid.
Luke, Kathleen, where's the GTA trailer?
It's not.
cares?
It's not Thursday yet.
Wait. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't care? This is huge.
What? Really?
Bigger than
I'm just
Warcraft.
not that
This
excited about it.
It's bigger
What?
than.
That psyched for it.
next gen GTA. We're hours away. You're not excited?
What's the last? Greg, what was the last Noir? Remember L.A. Noir? Remember that
Yeah.
trailer? How was that? Was that
Pretty
awesome?
sweet. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that was great.
Just saying. I mean,
I can't believe you guys are not excited. This is blowing my mind.
I know.
Kathleen's got to
You're
get
playing-
to 70.
How old is that game? 8, 10 years old? What is this?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Well, you know, it doesn't have 80s music. I'm not that jazzed about another GTA game.
you guys are just pissed. This is the most important game of this generation. You don't care?
Greg Ford, the most important game this generation starts with H and ends with Halo 3. Yep.
Wait, where do I find Boris? Where are pigs?
Probably in Ashenvale or in the west part of the south, like the southeast part of the Barrens, not the southwest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the southeast is where you get the wolf.
Morning.
Good morning.
What's happening?
Oh, World of Warcraft again.
Yeah.
Hey, you found a handheld game.
Yeah, I'm playing Puzzle Quest. It's good. I
Yeah.
got an extra DS copy if you want to play.
Fully.
What was Craig so worked up about?
He's all excited about GTA. But I've been playing Earth Defense Force.
Right.
Just past level 10, it starts not sucking.
Oh.
And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about Crackdown 2,
Yeah.
and about how great it'd be if, as an agent, I could destroy giant bugs and Gojira monsters.
Yeah.
And how if you took Earth Defense Force and you took a Crackdown and you made them have sex and make a beautiful game baby, and the baby would be like Jesus.
Hey, I don't wanna go to work today. Wanna stay home and play all my video games on the One Up Show. You know you'll be a star on the One Up Show. You already are. Every day, this life's a holiday. One up, 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 one up on the One Up Show. One up, 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 one up on the One Up Show.
What do you think?
You joined us.
Yeah.
You finally made
Yeah,
it in. It took you a little while.
I know.
You forgot your
Set up-
password? You
No, I
gotta-
had to set up a new account because I couldn't figure out my old one. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm actually giddy. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Giddy?
this time, yeah, this is me giddy right here. This is me barely keeping it together. Today we played, capture the flag in zones mainly, and I feel like this is what the game is built for. I was having so much
Right.
fun, and we were only playing like 8 people.
Yeah.
But I was having so much fun, even with those 8 people, like running around, jumping in a tank, jumping in jeeps, like getting into Warhawks. Like there was this real heated match where I think were just sitting in this fucking missile
I
launcher
wanted to bring that up.
over and over again, and you have to get over this hill because the map constricts when it's less
one of the
people.
balancing things they need to work on, because right now turrets are way too powerful.
Turrets are super powerful,
But I think that'll change once we play that map with more people on it, because no one was keeping me honest. Like,
the turrets are really highly powered now, but at the same time, like you have a whole huge blind spot all around you, and I think that was just, we didn't know how the hell to get you. Like that instance, I finally got a sniper rifle, and I'm like up on this hill, this tiny hill, like shooting you with a sniper rifle, and I see you like looking around, and then I see you find me, and I see the missiles just start to like come out at me. And maybe it was just playing 8 people, but it seemed like there was almost always a vehicle if I wanted one. There wasn't like, I mean, and I didn't mind being on foot a lot of times. In fact, I would get out of the vehicles because it's this constant match. It's like you're a bigger target and a slower target if you're in like a tank. But, tank is better than a Jeep or a guy, but not as better than a Warhawk. But a Warhawk's the anti-aircraft. And so there's this constant there's like this little food chain.
There's a level of depth that's there that wasn't in like Star Wars Battlefront, for instance.
Right, yeah.
So how long did it take you to like get used to what was what going on in the game? Because I'm still a little bit confused.
That's
at
the
times.
thing. It took me a long time. Like, you have look, you just happen to have. Yeah. So like the controls in this game, and you've got your own there too, are really freaking complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, most of it's the same. The lower half is the same no matter what you're doing. But like, even the Warhawk has 2 modes. It has hover, it has fly. You have your Jeep controls. Your guy controls are pretty basic, but it changes a little bit depending on what you're doing.
The Warhawk has a power slide?
Everything has a power slide, and the controls are actually like really deep.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you don't know that at first, and you don't also like. It's not like I think the controls are bad at all. Like it takes you a while.
It takes a long while. The first time you jump in a Warhawk, you want to control it like you would any other vehicle. This is where you move and this is where you look around, but this is not where you look around. So that's why most times you see somebody get in the Warhawk the first time and they go and then they go because that right stick is like crazy evasive maneuvers. And it takes time to get used to that. But once you do, it's like amazing the stuff that you're pulling off and the stuff you can do.
When I talked with the team, they said that they're working really hard to like have a lot of in-game hints and stuff like that. So depending on the situation, depending on your level of like expertise in the game and whatnot, you'll get different hints when you run into situations like that.
Where you at, Ghost Rider? I'm coming for you!
There's a mode where it's only Warhawks. You respawn in a Warhawk, you never get out, and that's and I thought the Warhawk was the most fun before, but now I think it'd probably be my least favorite mode. I mean, the Warhawk controls are great, but it's mostly dogfighting and stuff. You don't get the dynamic of like running up to get a flag, and then a tank comes around the corner, but then you start to see like strafing, and you look up, and it's like one of your teammates flies overhead and missiles something. Like that stuff is happening all the time, just constantly. You see people in turrets like. Defense is really rewarding. It's really fun.
It's really easy to get blown up in a Warhawk, so that Warhawk only mode is really just getting shot down over and over and over again.
Even on foot, like the missile launchers, there's a lot of missile launchers around, so you don't feel totally helpless, like even when you're on foot.
I'm the type that just will like run to a Warhawk and just start flying around and trying to bomb people and stuff like that. I mean, that was one of the points that the guys made too from the team, was that they found while they were making the single player game that it was actually a lot more fun to be playing multiplayer and bombing people below and having that dynamic of having like people running around down below and then you swooping in and taking them out and stuff. That was one of the reasons why they felt like multiplayer was the way to go.
If it's half the price of a normal game and you're getting basically half the game that you would expect, like I've got no problem if that's what it takes to concentrate and get this out and make it good. Yeah, I mean, it might be cool, but, like he says, if it's super popular and something happens, there's no saying that it never happened.
They have to develop like 2 distinctly different types of games. It's the Battlefield style and then the single player style.
Yeah,
that's the key.
That was the problem. They were doing that. Yeah. And as they were developing it, they realized, shit, we can't do both of these. We need to focus on one. And they were finding that the single player was just more fun. I mean, the multiplayer was more fun. So they were like, screw it, we're just going to focus on that. I do think that the single player missions will come out at some point. I mean, they've done all the work on them. I think they will. I mean, what I think Sony's going to end up doing is, there's been all this talk like online about like 1 second you hear from Sony that it's going to be Blu-ray, the next second you hear that it's going to be a downloadable game. What I think Sony's going to do is actually put it out as a downloadable game first on the PlayStation Network. I don't know how much it's going to cost. I would assume probably like $20, $30, something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd probably pay like $30 for it.
And then over time, like they'll probably, you can assume that they'll release more maps, more packs, all that kind of stuff. Maybe even the single player levels or whatever. If they did all that, I think at that point they're going to put all that together and release that as like a Blu-ray disc
Later on.
Yeah, later on. So probably like late fall or something, they might have the full experience on Blu-ray, which is actually, from what we hear, is what they're going to end up doing with a lot of PlayStation 3 games going forward. So it's kind of interesting. I think it's kind of cool. It's more like the kind of the HBO model, like where you have like the game you buy in stores is kind of like the box set, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, the problem is though, if the maps are pay for each map, then you segment the population each time.
Yeah, with an online game, that's pretty tough.
It'd have to be map packs.
Right.
So you're guaranteeing at least like 4 or 5.
I do like also you were able to, like, I don't know if you guys messed around with the options much, but you can really customize your guy. You can customize your Warhawk so you really know who's who. And you can even, like, you don't see this much outside of PC games or old PC games, like filter your servers by ping. Like the ping that you get to other places. Yeah, and also you're able to change maps or modes, at least we know, probably maps too, like without dumping everybody and having to go back. So like I don't take that for granted anymore now, about balance. Like it's too hard to tell. We haven't even played enough now to know if it's really balanced right. But so far, it hasn't been any super glaring bad things. If it's balanced right, like I'm really excited.
Me too. And that's why I'm glad that they're spending these next couple months just balancing the game and inviting us to play it and giving feedback. It's kind of unprecedented in a way. Like I've never played a game this early and had this level of like communication or interaction with a team.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
Motor Store.
Hey, you making a fire emblem noise over there?
I'm gaining levels over here, man.
Oh man. Oh, we're playing the Wii version, eh?
Yeah, that's 480i right there, my friend.
That is the best 480i I've ever seen. Looking at the game and not seeing the controller you're playing, I could have sworn that you were playing the Japanese GameCube version.
That's the weird thing. There's absolutely no reason. It's Fire Emblem on Wii, but there's absolutely no reason for it to be a Wii game.
When they announced the game at E3, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is awesome, a Fire Emblem game on the Wii. We're probably gonna like A, improve the graphics, B, do something different, and C, maybe actually utilize some cool Wii controls.
Right.
None of that happened.
The cool thing, you can use the classic controller.
Yeah.
And it actually works way, way better. On the regular Wiimote, you hold it sideways like this, but you're using the B button to go back, and it was obviously built like with this controller in mind. But it's a shame. It doesn't use the Wiimote at all.
I don't necessarily think it needs like crazy Wii controls,
Right.
but what it does need is like some graphic improvement, because this is probably one of the worst looking GameCube games of the past 2 years.
You mean the Wii game?
The Wii game, yeah.
Is one of the worst looking games.
Yeah, because basically, like, if you look at Super Paper Mario, that started out on the GameCube, but they actually, like, added some Wii controls and everything. But like, with the Wii version of Fire Emblem, it's like it must have started out as a GameCube game, but they were like, you know what? We're not even going to try to add new graphics. We're not even going to try to add new controls. We're just going to ship it out there and give it to you.
Well, and there's an FMV beginning that actually it's all CG, but it shows you like, oh yeah. I mean, when I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, and I started to get excited for Fire Emblem. I'm like, yeah, this is what like next gen Fire Emblem should look like. As the beast creatures, as the guys, they're all clashing. It's like, oh yeah, excellent. And then the game starts and you're like, oh my god. Like, it almost, not even on the GameCube, it almost might as well still be on the GBA. Graphics are not an important part of Fire Emblem to begin with. Let's say that. That's true. However, like, it really would be nice to have, something to look at while you're doing these hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, the graphics aren't that big of a deal because they weren't that great on the GBA, but the animations themselves are actually really cool. And I actually kept on the animations when I played the game, but with the GameCube version, I looked at the animations once and I turned them off. I'm like, these are terrible. They look like crap. I'm not going to do them. But the thing is, if you look at some Japanese strategy role-playing games, kind of like the Namco versus Capcom, or like Super Robot Wars, they have these beautifully drawn, awesomely animated, like 2D fight scenes, and it's kind of like, well, why can't Fire Emblem have that version?
Still got the big thing for the GameCube version were the guys that turn into different kinds of animals.
Which is terrible, by the way.
Why don't you don't like that? I
don't like it because the whole thing about Fire Emblem is that you build up your character and they start really weak, but the reward is if you level them up correctly, they turn out to be like the best characters in the game. Like my Pegasus Knights were like so great. I would fly around and kill anybody, and like that's the reward of like leveling up your characters. But with the Beast guys, the Lagoos or whatever the hell their name is, they don't level up. So you're kind of like, you're kind of stuck with them,
But the thing I like about fighting against them and also having them on your team, especially fighting against them, is it adds just another element. They like every turn that passes by, their little beast gauge goes up until eventually, and they're kind of weak until they turn into a beast. Once they turn into a beast, they can move really fast, they get great bonus, and then it starts ticking back down. So I just like that it added another element. Like, at least for me, that was something that was different.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, despite all of this stuff, like, despite it's still just, it might as well be a GBA game, still, I'm really enjoying playing it. Like, even turning the graphics off, I'm totally hooked again.
Oh yeah, I mean, the gameplay is probably, for me, the best gameplay I've experienced in a strategy role-playing game. I mean, some people may argue that, the Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ogre battles are better, but for me, I feel like it kind of mixes the best of Advance Wars with kind of like the Final Fantasy kind of like role-playing aspect.
Yeah, like I never understood Shu really likes Advance Wars, never really got into Fire Emblem. To me, it is like Advance Wars, except every tank you care about. Every tank has a name and gains levels and, everything like that. They all have these distinct personalities, even from, what their attacks are. It's like, this is the guy that's really fast that always hits twice, or, this is your thief that can get treasures. The other thing is, when somebody dies in Fire Emblem, and this is the controversial part that's still in here, when they die, they're dead for real. If it's your main character, it's game over, but anybody else, they're dead for good. Like, it makes you care so much about every move, because when someone dies, it's so important, but at the same time, it's like an hour into a fight, your weak-ass archer, somebody you just didn't, you forgot about, somebody flies in on the edge of the map, or like an enemy Pegasus Knight flies over and just nails him, he's dead, you're like, fuck! Like, I feel like I have to start the entire battle over again.
Yeah. It inherently sucks. I mean, having your characters die for good and you can't use them again after you build them up does suck. But I do like the fact that you know, when you're playing the game, that you do get attached to these characters, and so I will build up my, like, if my Pegasus Knight dies, I'm restarting the game.
And all of that stuff is in the previous Fire Emblem games.
Yeah.
But I mean, so this is a game where it's like so disappointing. It's almost like the character's dying. Like you love it and hate it at the same time. Like this game, I feel the same way. It's like I'm so disappointed that they didn't do anything. That it's such a lazy, like, could have been done on GameCube, even GBA port. At the same time, it's like the basics are still so solid that even, you know, tiny improvements on that has me like hooked playing it.
Yeah, I'll even go as far as to say that because of the fact that it is essentially a port of a GameCube game with like maybe new characters and new maps, etc., throw it up on the Virtual Console. Like, you know, charge like $20 for it, $10
like a
for it.
greatest hits, re-release Fire Emblem as a greatest hits or whatever on GameCube and throw the extra levels onto it or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't see why they can't do that. I mean, if you look at some of the other like PSN Network games that are coming out, like Tekken Dark Resurrection, which was like an arcade game that they just ported up, it's like, you know, this is essentially, you know, they're not changing anything really, so just throw it up on the Virtual Console, you know? It's better than spending like $50 on a game that's essentially a extension. I don't know.
Things will be different.
Play it again. Louder.
And when
I heard
people
Liberty
saw this
City.
the first time through, they're like, "Oh, it's New York this time." But
That's it. It's a lot more New York than GTA 3's Liberty
Right.
City was.
And you can definitely tell from the cars it's modern day.
Okay, there's a ferry building, but it has
Liberty.
it says Liberty
Oh,
Ferry
right,
Terminal
right.
there. So there's the first clue. And there's
And
also
the boat has Liberty on
Liberty
it.
on the boat.
Yeah, there's a lot of Liberty droppings in here.
Yeah.
Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty.
Empire State
State Building with Chrysler Building in the background. Chrysler Building.
It's kind of the same thing they were trying to do with San Andreas, was just make almost an exact replica. You know, I remember like San Francisco had Lombard Street and the bridges and all that. So we've seen this before. You know, like True Crime did New York City, and but obviously it doesn't look as good as this. So it's kind of neat to see it in full high resolution, and it's really detailed.
Yeah, well, it's going from 3 cities in San Andreas to 1 here. It looks, well, from all we can tell. And I'm wondering if like there's gonna be a lot more details in terms of every street, and then a lot more interiors. You know,
And it's kind of weird to see a realistic GTA because you're just used to this kind of, it's almost a cartoony world. Like everything's tongue in cheek, the humor's very silly, the dialogue's really silly. So it's kind of strange to see like this taking a realistic turn, but that's really what I want.
But it looks like the humor's still there. I mean, it's all the same. It's the same brands and everything that we heard in the radio and saw in the ads, and like, you know. There's a movie poster down there with "I Slept with Your Mom."
Here we have the Clucking Bell. That's in San Andreas.
So that's cool. They're America's Top Hooker.
Oh yeah, I just noticed it just now. Watch him. He's fixing his rear view mirror.
Oh yeah.
That's cool enough. A little detail that just makes it.
I think we're wasting your talents here. You should be like at CSI.
You should be a cop.
Yeah.
There aren't just civilians walking around. Like some guys are sitting on the stairs, on a stoop. So it looks a little bit more real instead of these artificial characters just walking around.
Right, like people are living in the city.
They live in the city.
The amount of detail just blows me away. Every time you see it, you see more in it. Like in that opening scene, you see the steam coming off the air conditioning units.
Hey, did they say what console this is on?
They said a console, not like PS3 or 360.
Okay. What if it's Wii and the 360 version and PS3 version actually looks a lot better than this? This is like a secret Wii version or something.
I'm sure it is. I mean, this is apparently exactly what it's going to look like.
I mean, I'm disappointed that there's no actual gameplay happening in front of us. But I don't think we can expect that.
Happen,
right?
Yeah.
Life is complicated. I killed people, smuggled people, sold people.
Here's our main character.
I think he sounds Russian.
I think he's Russian.
He's a terrorist. What? Yeah, he sold people, he's killed people, smuggled people. He's just gonna be perceived as a terrorist.
I think when people see this, they're gonna think he's a terrorist.
When did you pick up he's a terrorist?
That's people were talking about it.
People are talking
already
from the terrorist scene in this trailer.
I'm telling you right now, he'll be perceived by a lot of people as a terrorist.
Wait, like a Russian terrorist or a Middle Eastern terrorist?
I'm walking like a terrorist right there.
Yeah, that's the walk.
He's gonna blow that bridge up.
He sounds Russian.
Yeah. He also sounds from that like it's him trying to get away from bad stuff rather than. I mean, it's a different
I
kind
got
of
it
vibe.
that he left his old country because he did all that. He's going to America to get away from it.
I think he's going to be a do-gooder. He's just going to no crime in this game. He's just going to be like, I don't want to kill anybody. I don't want to do anything bad. That's the new direction for Grand Theft Auto.
You think?
You heard it here first.
You think?
No.
And also, we looked at his fingers. They seem to be individual fingers.
Wow, you really look close. Well, they've never done a trailer for GTA like this before. It's always been that sort of welcome to the jungle vibe.
Yeah.
Last time it's always been fast cuts showing things blowing. I mean, there's no explosions. There's no guns. There's not a guy walking down the middle of the street with a rocket launcher kind of thing.
This is what I've always been waiting for. I'm like, GTA has always, like GTA 3 and through San Andreas, always been like great games. But they're almost too ambitious for the hardware, you know. They never look great, but you didn't care because you had so much fun with them. And it's like all this time we just kept waiting. Grand Theft Auto 4 finally will hopefully be that game where it catches up to the technology, you know, or the technology catches up to what they want to do.
Perhaps here, things will be different.
No IV.
Yeah, there's new
no
game
mention.
IV.
No mention of Grand Theft Auto anywhere on the trailer.
Right.
Immigrant
trauma center IV or something. It's definitely got me really excited. I mean, again, I wanted to see so much more, but there's a lot here to dissect.
I don't like this IV game.
You want to watch it again?
Rated T for teen. Earth Defense Force 2017 for Xbox 360.
Come over here, we need to talk.
So what'd you think?
It sounded really good, and it looked really good. It looked like this giant open world. It looked like everything I thought that it was going to be. But man, that first 5 hours or so was pretty terrible for me.
Really?
Except for the graphics, none of the game design is modern. Things like inventory management and quest system management is all done in a like Diablo style.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's got this like time capsule quality to it.
Yeah.
And even the graphics. I mean, when I describe them, it's like the best looking graphics from 3-4 years ago. Parts of the game that work well for me, work well enough that I look at all that and it just like adds to the vibe. It's like, okay, this is this Ukraine-made game. This like thing just popped out of, you know, Kiev, and the guys making it are just like, this isn't our backyard, and this is the big crazy, you know, demon that we have here, and everyone, you know, comes up with their own stories about what it means and how it happened. And you don't know what the extent of the range of possibilities are at first, and because of that, you know, you think, oh, they're enormous. You find out later they're not anywhere near as big or as expansive as you assume. But that initial part where you're like, it could be as big as who knows?
Think it is.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it could be like an Oblivion style game.
Yeah, and
but
it's physically big in terms of options, in terms of the AI.
Help me, brother! Take the med kit off the stiff. I can't crawl that far. Help me, brother. Take the med kit off the stiff. I can thank you, Martor. You're okay, you know that? I'll be sure to tell everyone at the camp that you helped me out.
This game is like, it just throws you in. It's like, figure this stuff out. You're smart enough to make a computer that can play this. You're smart enough to patch it and figure out how to get over our shitty performance and make it run. You're
Yeah, if you can get it running, you're probably okay.
Yeah, you can like figure out what to do now.
I've got no money, no artifact. It's the.
You know, you were saying in your first 5 hours it wasn't so impressive, but for me the cool thing was that because I didn't know the extent of the illusion, and I come in, I put my binoculars up, and I see dogs chasing boar and boar chasing troopers and whatnot, and I just wonder like how deep is that AI? I mean, did I just see some random fluke, or is that scripted? You know, how did that all work? And it's just so much fun, like pushing those boundaries and seeing just how this whole thing works, how it operates. You know.
No, that stuff was really fun to me. It was when the actual game mechanics started fighting back against me that I got angry with it. You know, it is like a role-playing game. All the weapons have stats in accuracy, in rate of fire. Like, they degrade, and you have to get new weapons. That's all cool, and I kind of like it. But what I didn't like was like the AI seemed to mostly, they would flank when they needed to, but then once they had you pinned down, they just pin you down. Which, of course, sure, that might be the way that it actually happens in real life. Right. But it's not fun when you like pop out from the side of the box, shoot off something like a full clip, and maybe 2 of the shots hit the guys.
Or the worst case scenario, if that happens and you start running out of ammo, and you've got to for every time you kill a guy, you've got to run up, press the inventory menu, take some ammo off him, or switch guns with him and do it. It can be bad. Yeah, the experience does depend on what you have, and they can't guarantee that everyone's going to have the same thing.
The game really kind of opens up and expands at about 5 hours in once you finally make it to the city.
Stalkers, veterans and hunters, join duty. Protecting the world from the zone's evil is our common goal.
Where you meet the barkeep and you meet all these people running around the town who can give you new missions that are side quests, or in terms of the barkeep, like keeps the narrative moving forward.
That bar, huh?
Hey, Martwa, have you brought the documents from the Institute?
They gave me the stalking suit, which increases your abilities greatly, so you're not wearing your stupid leather jacket anymore. Like, I was dying all the time before I got that suit, and before I got a few of those little crystals that actually, increase the amount of health I had or whatever. And once you get the scope for your rifle for the first time, that really changes the game too. Yeah, because once you have a scope, then you can stand back and shoot things. Once my fear of dying went away, because I just, at the beginning of the game, I was required. I wouldn't have made it anywhere if I wasn't quick saving every few minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that sucks. That's not fun.
It wasn't fun. And at some point I realized you can just run away from these fights.
You can run from almost anything. It's all based on your experience. And if I had your experience, I'm sure I would feel the same way. Yeah. Like, it would be really frustrating.
But that's the thing, is it did get good at some point, and I ended up really having a good time with it for a while, until I started running into weird AI bugs and weird story bugs that just made it frustrating. Like, there's this one time where you have to break into this complex, and down on the bottom floor there's a dude in jail. The mission is unclear. Like, when you talk to the guy, it kind of makes it sound like you need to, escort this guy back out of the building. Right. Once you do save him. But then the AI was all fucking wacky. Like, it would, if you talk to the guy, then he would follow you a little bit, but he'd follow you for 10 steps and then stop. And then you talk to him again.
Were you supposed to take him out?
No, well, that was the thing. We couldn't figure it out. But then eventually he would run out of his cell, run all the way back. He got to the point where we had cleared the complex, and he was running around the entire complex on sprint. And then he disappeared for a while. We left the complex and we were running around shooting more guys. And we finally left, and this was 15, 20 minutes later in gameplay time. And then all of a sudden he was booking through the environment, just sprinting around, running all sorts of different places.
See, that's one of my favorite sections in there.
Okay, well,
because you don't have to break that guy out, right?
You don't have to.
That whole complex, you need to get inside of it, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't really say where at first, unless you look close in your PDA. So I just was kind of walking around it. And it took me a while, and eventually I'm like, oh, here's a way in. But I was like, okay, this makes sense, because this is what I would do if there wasn't a flashing arrow in life, I would case this joint and look for a way in. And then after I looked the whole thing, I'd say, okay, that looks like an option and that looks like one. When you get into that area, there are so many ways in. I don't know if you realize just how many. You know, it sounds like you might have went in through the first floor, the basement. It was just so cool that, I mean, it's the way that, you know, you'd play when I play Battlefield 2 or something online, and every time, you know, I'm trying to capture a base or something, and I know, like, I can do it in all these different, any number of ways. It's like, just try something, and that's why I always, like, to an extent, I mean, that's something where multiplayer is so much stronger, you know, is, in part, it's because, you know, you're not dealing with AI, you're dealing with, you know, humans, but also because the level design is made to, you're going to replay the same scenario over and over again. It's going to offer as many options as possible, and it just, like, that worked for me.
Every once in a while, the game will give you a voice message, and it said, like, okay, Stalker, you made it, and now we're going to send a chopper and attack you. And I was like, okay, so we made a little save file called Attack by Chopper. Then, like, 5 seconds later, I get another message coming through from a different guy that says, like,
there goes your chopper. You're next, you political scumbags.
and sure enough, the chopper got shot down. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess he wasn't talking to me when he said you, player, you, Stalker. And then we got up on this pipe and started going on a little bit more, and then another message popped in that was like,
You, Stalker. Atlas. We were attacked by mercs and half of our team was killed.
and I was like, I don't see anyone. Okay, fine. And then like a few seconds later, it said task failed. You didn't save these guys. I'm like, where were the fucking guys? Like, what guys?
Professor, you're a smart man. Give us the info and go where you want. If you don't want me to destroy the research results, stay away from me.
There are all these like examples of bad game design in there, but the environment is awesome. Like once you get a scope and you're having fun shooting, and like you said, the open-endedness is what makes it good. It's like, man, EA would never put out a game like this. They'd get like 4 more producers on that title to like trim shit out, like, you know, little things like when you zoom in with your scope. If you're playing on a 16:9 monitor, like the zooming reticle is like an ellipse, you know, it's not a circle. Like
they wouldn't have let artists spend however many weeks working on parts of the environment that like maybe 10-20% of the gaming of the players are going to even explore. Like I chose to overlook. I mean, I didn't choose to ignore it. That stuff's there. They just didn't have the effect on my like take on the game that they are for you.
No, and that's the thing, is like I know how frustrated I was at times, and like I said, at times I wanted to stop playing, but I did keep going.
When you review or criticize movies and stuff, you know, you never really expect to have just this exact, you know, range of scores for the whole thing. I think if you just review games on a technical level, like a machine or something, like a consumer report, it is easy to go through the checklist, and everyone kind of agrees. If this thing works the way that it proposes, you know, that it says it's going to work, then it's good, you know. Yeah. But I think like, I mean, once we get beyond that and get to just like the, you know, the times we have with the game, what it's like to play these games, you're going to have a lot bigger range. And it's like no one's right or wrong. It's like, I mean, it would be so dumb of me to tell you, well, you just don't get the game, you're dumb, Ryan. Because, I mean, clearly, it's not living up to the hype for you.
Yeah,
and that sucks, because I've had that happen to me for games that other people have been hyped on.
I'll put it to you this way, I'm glad that Stalker exists the way that it does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as much as I don't like or have problems with it being the way that it is, I wouldn't want it to be Tom Clancy-ified, you know what I mean? I wouldn't want it to have the Ubisoft or the EA treatment, because then it would feel like just like those games. It would probably lose some of the things that are nice about it.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, like, that's reassuring, because it's like, to me, that is important. It's something else. It's like another option. For all the reasons we said, it stands out, and I think that just makes like the bigger gaming landscape richer, you know, for it. And I hope that developer makes something else soon.
Готовься к фуршету, чувак. Ты – основное блюдо. Давай шевели ногами. Ты быстрее двигайся, урод! Я тебе не завидую.